Hello, listeners, and welcome to our podcast, Soulful Growth to Success. And today we have an amazing guest who is a content creator, an author, a speaker, and who happens to be blind. But her story will inspire you and will empower you. And so I'm so excited to have Anne Mok today. Hello, Anne. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me today. I'm so excited about our conversation today.
Yeah. So, how did your journey as an influencer, as a content creator, how did it begin? All of that.
I would say I began as an accidental
Yeah.
content creator. What happened was, going back a little bit, just before the pandemic, I was quite sick. January 1st, 2019, I woke up with this terrible migraine headache
Yeah.
that I actually still have today, even while we're speaking.
Yeah.
And so I ended up being bedridden for about 8 months
Oh, wow.
at that time, and it fell into severe depression.
It's called new daily persistent headache,
Yes.
right? And it's NDHP.
NDPH.
NDPH.
Yeah, so
Okay.
exactly how it sounds, new daily persistent headache. It starts off suddenly, without warning, without any history of previous migraine or anything.
Right.
And it just started just that one day, on that New Year's Day.
Okay.
And I thought it was related to my vision
Oh,
originally.
yes.
And so I saw the doctor, and she's like, "No, it's not. We'll send you to a neuro-ophthalmologist." And she's like, I think it's migraines." And I was like, "What?" But it wasn't ending. Any type of medication I was taking, it wasn't aborting it or stopping the pain at all. And you get this diagnosis when it's constant for 3 months.
Oh, wow.
So at the 2 month mark, was seeing a headache specialist. Went to have CT scans and MRIs, and I honestly thought I had a tumor or
Yeah.
something. I was very, very scared of
Yeah.
what was happening.
Yeah.
And he diagnosed it quite quickly, saying this is new daily persistent headache.
Wow.
So I've been on a long journey of trying different things.
Okay.
But in that 8 months of bed rest, really hit my low. I was no longer able to work at that time, and I was already losing my vision. And I knew at some point I would have to stop working because of my vision, but not because of this chronic illness. And so in that time, I know I was using websites and my phone, and I was noticing that digital accessibility was a challenge for those in the blind and low vision community.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit, and then that magnified it even more,
Yeah.
because we were all relying on online shopping,
Yeah.
groceries,
Right.
but there wasn't enough description and image description and alt text
On phones.
on our
Yeah.
phones and on websites.
Okay.
So you could say order a pair of runners, and it would give you maybe a small description,
Okay.
but not really. So you'd have to rely on other people
Yeah.
to tell you,
Yeah.
is this my shoe with a white stripe or a cream colored,
Yeah.
or are the laces a different color, that type of thing.
Okay.
So you would get your products, but it was always just like throwing darts.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit into also your story from as a child when you were diagnosed with the rare syndrome.
Yeah.
Would you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So my parents immigrated here in Canada, and I came when I was 2 years old.
Yeah.
So back then, there wasn't a lot of Asian families
Right.
in the neighborhood. We lived in
Okay.
the suburbs.
Yeah, yeah,
When I
yeah.
went to elementary school, there was 2 Asian families, one
Okay.
South Asian family, and a Japanese family.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay.
And we ended up being severely bullied.
Did you move to Vancouver?
We were in Burnaby.
In
at
Burnaby,
that time.
okay,
Yeah. So we
okay.
had like this
Yeah.
nice little home. The
Yeah.
family was happy because they could buy their home
Yes.
in Canada, and we could walk to school.
Yeah.
Like it was like the perfect
Yeah.
childhood, right?
Right.
But we, especially my brother, what got hit the most, where he was called names quite often,
Right.
and because we were one of the only Asian families, like people would throw rocks at our windows and
Yeah,
stuff. So
yeah.
it was quite traumatizing.
Yeah, and you were 3 month old at the
I was
time?
about 3 years old.
3 years
at the
old,
time.
3 years
Yeah,
old,
so when that
yeah.
happened, because my brother
Okay.
just started kindergarten in grade 1.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it was a struggle, and I didn't really understand
Yeah, why would somebody throw
why
a
would
rock
people.
at your
Yeah,
window?
yeah,
Yeah.
and plus I didn't see myself as different. I just
Yeah,
thought
that's
I
right.
was
You're
any other
just a
kid.
child,
Yeah,
just 3 year old.
yeah,
Like, you
yeah.
know?
I just
Yeah.
didn't see differences.
Wow.
And it was until I got to school, and then because I was like the smallest one, so they called me shrimp. And then
Yeah.
like I wore really thick glasses because I was
Right.
having trouble seeing already at the time. So
Yes.
3 years old, I was already wearing like those thick
The
Coke
glasses.
bottle lenses, right? And being typical Asian child, I tried hard in school, but I just never did really well.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was because I was struggling with my vision.
With your vision.
Yeah, and my brothers and sisters wore glasses too, so it wasn't like
Yeah.
I felt like there was something even more going on.
Right.
Yeah, like I couldn't, play sports, like miss them, and
Yeah.
parents put us in piano or those, and I'm like just
Yeah.
terrible at that stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Math, terrible, right? So
Yeah.
I just did not fit the stereotype of anything.
Okay.
Yeah, so I made it through school and graduated. But I found I did really well in using muscle memory.
Okay.
Like I could work at the fast food, and I
Right.
would do really well. Like grab
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
grab
I
that,
remember.
and I was like, as an employee, I did very well, right? So that's sort of how things kind of started off, where there was something always wrong with my vision,
Right, yeah,
but
yeah,
not
yeah. It was not diagnosed.
not diagnosed. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Until I was a little bit older and I was able to get laser eye surgery. So I thought, this is great.
Yeah.
And I could see like amazing, like I could see the details in the leaves, and I was like,
Right.
this world is just beautiful.
Yeah.
But it was very shortly after that my vision started deteriorating. And
So you did the surgery and after that? Okay.
I did the surgery, and then like my vision was like 20/20 clear,
Okay.
and then it just started deteriorating.
Wow.
Yeah, and they had always said, when you get older, you're going to need reading glasses, and I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
But to have such a rapid deterioration afterward was quite alarming, and so I would go to the eye doctor, and I'd say, I can't see what I know I'm supposed to see,
Yeah.
because I wasn't able to see at nighttime anymore.
Wow.
I couldn't see the street signs in front of me, the license plates in front of me, and I
Yeah.
thought something is not quite right. But every
Yeah.
time I went to the eye doctor, they're like, "You're fine. Your visual acuity is great." But yeah, it took about
That's-
8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, of me constantly going to the eye
Yeah,
doctor
yeah.
to say something's wrong.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what would you suggest somebody who's going maybe, through fuzzy vision loss or and stuff like that? Like what kind of tests did you go through was different from like the general kind? Like what would you tell people who are going through something like that?
I would tell people to continue advocating for yourself.
Okay.
Because I really honestly thought, because everyone was saying you're fine, that I was having a psychological issue. I
Okay.
thought there's something wrong with
Yeah.
me, but deep down I knew something wasn't right. So
Okay.
continue advocating for yourself, however long it takes. Eventually you'll get there. But I think one of the key things that what my optometrist's office didn't have at the time was an OCT scan, which is optical coherence tomography, which is like an MRI of the back of your eye.
Okay.
And now, like I've just finishing up partnerships with Specsavers, and Specsavers in their offices, every single office has an OCT machine now.
Okay.
So, which is so valuable because it gives your baseline, like as your
Yeah.
retina changes over time, and then they
Right.
can see.
Yeah.
Because had I been referred sooner, maybe to the ophthalmologist, because they have the machines there,
Right.
I would have probably got diagnosed faster.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's. And did it also affect your mental health, like trying to convince people that there's something wrong and they were not believing it?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
yes, yeah.
yeah.
Psychologically, I felt like I was losing it.
Yeah.
But I also knew that something wasn't right, so I gave up driving long before I got the diagnosis, because I knew it wasn't safe for me to drive. I didn't feel safe, and I didn't feel safe for anybody, and I just didn't want anything to happen. So, because before that, I was like leaving early for work. Like I didn't have to start work till like 8:30, but I would leave like at 5 in the morning,
Yeah.
and so that there was no one on the road,
Yeah.
and I felt like comfortable. And then I would stay at work even longer. Like I'd stay till 7 just to wait for the rush hour traffic to go. And I had 3 kids at home. I had a husband at home who had suffered a stroke, and so he was at home taking care of the kids while I was trying to be the breadwinner.
Right.
Yeah, and so, trying to be a good employee, like they thought, wow, she's a great employee. She goes to work early. She stays late. She works so hard. But it was because I was struggling so much with my vision.
Yeah. And it's so funny, and even being a woman, and not even being a woman, like responsibilities of daily life, you know, and going to work, and then also taking care of the kids, cooking for them and all of that. It's, you kind of put yourself last.
Yes.
And then, you're like, your family comes first. And whenever we tend to, I feel like, overlook, and that self-love, that, that self-care. And I feel like we kind of like look away, and ignore. And then years later, we're like, oh my God, I didn't take care of myself. That's why now I have to face the consequences of that. So I feel like it's really important to take care of yourself first, to take care of your being, and then you can take care of your family, you can take care of your kids, you can do any other thing you want, right? Did you take time out from your routine for yourself?
Not at all. Not at all. With my husband and his stroke, I was the caregiver for him. So I was, with him at doctor's appointments, helping him through things. And there was a lot of things going on with him that, I was managing. And then raising 3 kids who were at the busiest season of their lives, where they were in the hockey and taekwondo and swimming.
To driving them
around everywhere, right? And then being the primary breadwinner now, which I was actually working 2 and 3 jobs at the same time. So there was no time to take care of myself. And I just didn't know where to begin. I was just trying to like put one foot in front of the other just to keep going and just like stay afloat. And being in the healthcare industry for many years, or about 25 years, I knew to advocate, and I've always advocated for other people, and I knew to advocate for myself, but for some reason I wasn't getting anywhere with myself.
Right. And about your TEDx talk, how did that came into an idea? How did you
Everything honestly is by accidental, but I also think it's on purpose as well. The way that everything unfolds in life. And I'd been on social media for a little bit, and I was in the Purdy's Holiday Braille Box commercial. And I remember with the lights and the camera just being kind of dumbfounded, and I didn't know what to say. And so I thought, I need to take some public speaking courses and help. So I did that from January to March. And I'm also part of Jillian Harris's Jilly Academy. So there was a contest out there. And so I ended up winning it. Like I had to pitch myself for a minute. And then I had a one-on-one with her, and then she connected me with a women's group. It was Wine, Women, and Wellbeing back at that time, and I did a speaking engagement there. And I was kind of just on this really weird high. And then there was a
keep going. You're just loving it.
Loving it. And then there was an application for TEDx, and I thought, I'll give it a try. Like, I'm not going to get it. Like, I've just started speaking. I've only spoken once on stage. But I made it through. I made it through the application process, the second interview, and the third. And then I just thought, oh my goodness, what have I done?
Your story is definitely inspiring, and the solutions you have brought, and we'll talk more about the solutions that we were talking about, like the alt text and all of that on social media. And I also want to know that content creator, I love that what you're doing right now and how you're influencing people. And do you think now it comes effortless? Like you were working so hard, three
Yeah.
jobs and all of that.
Yes.
Now that you've found your passion,
Yeah.
that you have, concentrating on your passion rather than being in a job.
Yes.
Isn't it so fulfilling?
It is so fulfilling and a path that I would have never dreamed of. And never in my wildest dreams would I have ever thought that I would get to this point, because in 2019 when I was down in the dumps, I really thought I had no purpose or nothing
Yeah.
left in my life, and I didn't see a way forward. And content creation for me has been in a way of self-care,
Yeah.
because even for me it's very laborious and time intensive,
Right,
but
right.
I used it as a way to take care of myself, because there were days I couldn't get out of bed, take a shower, but it's like, okay, on this day, I'm going to take a photo. So I'm going to get up, take a shower, comb my hair,
Yes.
put on some makeup, and
Yeah.
I'll feel better.
I feel
And then the
better.
next day, I might write the caption or the post.
Yes.
And then the next day, I'll post it. And then
Right.
next, I'll engage. And so it was
Yes.
giving me a purpose, meaning,
purpose,
right? And then
meaning.
as the community was building,
Yes.
it became so powerful and so meaningful,
Yeah.
because I was connecting with others, and I was looking for that
Yes.
connection
Yes.
of finding others with my visual impairment or my
Yeah.
headache condition,
Right.
because they were both rare conditions,
Right.
and finding people that you can connect with,
Yeah, and share
really
stories.
bridge that gap. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what I was talking about yesterday. It's like you want to be understood. Like that's all everybody wants. They want somebody to listen to you. And yeah, there could be a person who's listening, but sometimes they don't come from that perception because they don't know what you've been gone through, or they don't have same experiences.
Yeah.
So it's so like connecting when you can really open your heart out, and you know that somebody is understanding you.
Yes.
And that sense of community, I feel like everybody should have.
Yeah.
And whatever they're going through, like for me, it also comes on a businesswoman. So I love connecting. And we're also, in groups like with Christine, with Why We Are Entrepreneurs Club. And so it's so amazing to connect with like-minded individuals, to meet such inspiring women like you. I mean, it's just been a blessing. So yeah, so I'm so glad that you've actually, been on that journey and you never stopped.
Yeah.
Because some people just give up, be like, okay, this is my life. So I always say it's a choice.
It is a choice.
Right?
It
So
is
you
a
made
choice.
that choice.
Yes.
So yeah, and then you went on that journey, and So what was like your first post? Like what was the first thing that, brought you here?
The first post is, I still love to shop no matter what. I still love to
Okay.
shop. So I can still do that in my bed. But
Yeah.
at the time I was like wanting to support local businesses with the pandemic. That's the thing that I saw was like, what can I do to help? What can I do to raise awareness about the visually impaired community, but also support local businesses? So, and I chose Instagram because it's a visual medium.
Yeah.
And I'm like, people don't expect the blind person to
Yes.
create content or post.
Yes.
But I want to bring in the blind community, and I want them to know about these small businesses. So the first thing I posted was about a dress that I bought from the local space.
Okay.
And then I tagged them.
Yes.
And then I wrote the image description for it and the alt
Yes.
text for it, so that it would show that you can make content accessible.
Yeah.
And you don't want any audience member left behind.
Yeah.
So how to include everyone, right?
Right.
So it kind of just started on that momentum, and I was
Okay.
just tagging the small businesses.
Yes.
And I was like, I do not want my face on social media. I was just like, my back is there,
Okay.
like the side
Yeah.
profile.
I get it. In the beginning, it's so hard,
It is,
you have that imposter syndrome. Like,
Yes.
am I enough? Am I good? Am I
Yes.
that? But now, I love seeing you there.
So many started to be more interested in the story and what was happening, and it wasn't so much from the visually impaired community, but it was the sighted community. And I thought this is a great way to bring awareness and educate,
Yes.
because really in our lifetimes we may not encounter a person who's visually impaired,
Right.
and you could see someone, but you might not even know that they're going through that. Like I was living a double life for so long, with people not knowing how much I was struggling. And even when I did get a cane, I refused to use it because of the stigma, and I didn't want to be stared at.
Right.
So it takes so much to get to that stage. And you know, for me, any woman out there who's going through anything like that, I want them to know that it's going to be okay. You know, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And you know, once you accept it, you really can step into your power. Like I found that I am actually more me than I ever was before, because I can let go of all of it.
And also your book, Become Empowered. You know, it's just amazing. It's by Sabine, right? And you paid a column in there. You've written a column in there. Would you like to talk a little bit about your book?
Sure. So the book is called Become Empowered, and it's the stories of 13 women, including myself, and how we've gotten to where we are, from the depths to leading an empowered life. And so I have one chapter in the book, and that talks about my journey from before diagnosis to during diagnosis and afterwards, and the feelings that I went through, and really how, you know, to understand blindness, like, because many people think it's total darkness, but it actually really is a spectrum, meaning that, you know, 95% of those that are blind actually see something. So we have varying degrees of sight. So for me, with cone rod dystrophy, I can still perceive light. I can see colors, and I can see shapes, but they're very distorted. And I have some loss of peripheral vision, so a white cane helps me. So that lets other people know that I'm struggling. It gives me space. So those are the things that are helpful.
Like you mentioned in your TEDx talk too, that any sighted or you know, blind person, there's no difference. Like, you cannot visually see a difference in that person, right? So it's so hard for you know, anybody to kind of know that you're struggling. So like using a cane would, you know, like kind of differentiate that, okay, you know, and give you a little bit more space.
Because I would always be bumping into people, and they'd be yelling back at me, and I'd be like, I'm sorry. I didn't see you, right? So now they're just like, oh, well, just leave her alone, right?
And what's so beautiful about you is also working on the solutions, you know, because yes, there are people who go through that and kind of like leave it there. You know, be like, okay, I'll leave it, you know, on the universe and like help me. But I love the people who take initiation of not being, you know, in misery and being a victim of their circumstances. Be like, okay, like I can find a solution out of this. And you have done that. So would you share about the solutions that you brought to the world and in social media, in Instagram and all the other places?
And what I really feel, you know, when it comes to disability, is not like overcoming it, but it's like finding that new path. So how do we find the new path? Like, it is what it is. You know, I can't change it. I can't hide it. It is what it is. So how can I, you know, create that new path to find the solutions, and not just, you know, for myself living my best life now, but how can I give back to the community in some way? So I do quite a bit of volunteering. So I volunteer with CNIB because they've supported me a lot over the years to get to where I am. So I every third Wednesday I sit down with the seniors group and we talk, because a lot of the things that I kind of went through, losing my job, losing my vision, happens to the seniors at that level too. So it's like, how do we find our new path? How do we find our next chapter now? Right? And how do we find solutions to our grocery shopping, getting our bills done, traveling? Like, we could still do all of that. And then the partnerships that I have really raise awareness about the visually impaired community, and show that me as a blind person, I can still be a content creator. I still wear mainstream clothes. I still enjoy fashion. I still enjoy makeup. I still going go out. I love taking pictures.
Yes.
Like, and people are like, how do you do it? I'm like, you know what? I
Yeah.
just snap it. And then later I'm like, wow, that looks good.
That
right?
looks good.
Right? And I
Yeah.
enjoy just seeing the world in a different way, in a new perspective. And I appreciate it so much. And then I do a lot of times, we just had a group last night. It's called Name Your Cane. And we just sit in and we talk over Zoom about like how things are going for us.
Yeah.
Some of us are new in our cane journey. Some of us have been on it for a while. But how can we support each other? Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really building that community.
Do you think like internet or website or Instagram had made a difference since you've been on this journey, like since 2019, since after pandemic, like changes in the product itself? Was there any changes to the disability community?
I think it's brought people together.
Okay.
It's definitely brought people together because a disability is isolating.
Yeah.
And many times you don't want to go out. You
Right.
don't feel like it.
Right.
But at least you can connect with someone from
Right.
all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think my biggest why is I had connected with a young 14-year-old girl early in my Instagram journey, and she's on another continent, but she said to me, thank you. This is the first time I've seen someone that looks like me
Wow.
using a white cane. And then I realized how important it is. Because I even realized as a child, as a young person, had I seen
Yeah, somebody.
more,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I think I would have been able to create my
Yeah.
path and feel more confident in like, okay, what's
Right.
my future?
Right.
And I think, I hope we can give this to the younger community as well.
Yes. Yes.
But vision loss can happen at any point in time.
That's right.
So showing that, it's not an end, but actually just a new beginning.
It's just a new beginning.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And that will be a wrap for today's episode. And thank you, Anne, for coming to our podcast. And it just has been amazing with your energy, with your vision for the future. We just get so inspired and so empowered by your story. And thank you for coming to our show. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved it.
Thank you for watching my channel, and thank you for watching this episode. If you liked our conversation with Anne Mok and me, you can subscribe to our channel, leave a comment, and give us a takeaway. Tell us what you have learned from this episode. We would love to have your feedback. Thank you so much.